10 years ago the gates opened around the world. Monsters came out from there. Awakened individuals appeared among humanity, becoming monster hunters. Kang Ji-hyun frowned. Suddenly, a chunk of ice slammed into his face. The heavy ice smashed into Ji-hyun's face, disorienting him. He fell, writhing in pain. The floor was splattered with Ji-hyun's blood. I was just a failure. Tae-soo sneered. Hey, you idiot. He urged the struggling Ji-hyun on the floor, get up. At the specialized high school for awakened abilities, my inherent regeneration ability was classified as S-class, but it wasn't like that for me. It caused excruciating pain during the regeneration process. Bullies attacked me, mocking me and laughing while I endured the agony of healing. Once the healing was complete, not even a trace remained. Teachers, police, they couldn't do anything, at least not with S-class awakened individuals who received special government treatment. The only reason I endured was because of the pain. It was because of my mother. Ji-hyun's mother said, "Son, you're home, come eat." My father died when I was only 5, his mother worriedly asked about school. Ji-hyun scooped up a bite of rice and replied, "School, Mom." He chewed, cheerful and bright, "It's great, Mom." His mother chuckled, "Really? After graduation, I could become a hunter." Ji-hyun, shaking off his sadness, silently resolved to endure. With my abilities, I'd at least become a C-class hunter. The income wouldn't be high. But at least we could live in a better place. Let's live happily, Mom. Your birthday, the 15th, is marked on the calendar. I thought so, until those bastards turned my mother into a vegetable. They said it was an accident. By chance, they went to Tae-soo's mother's cafe. Tae-soo admiringly exclaimed, "Wow, you're beautiful." He confidently took Ji-hyun's mother's hand. "I'm an awakened individual, what do you think, I can create diamonds?" His friends laughed loudly. She pulled her hand away, causing the phone on the table to fall. "I'm sorry," she said. The phone fell to the ground and the screen shattered. And coincidentally, Ji-hyun's mother, flustered, said, "Oh, your phone's screen. How can I compensate for this?" Before she finished, Tae-soo, using his powers, created an ice spike that impaled her. Damn it, their powers went out of control. Ji-hyun gritted his teeth, blood pouring out, and silently wondered, is this real? Enraged, he bit down hard. I understand them all too well. Ji-hyun's teeth shattered and fell. There was nothing accidental about it. He lost control, his fingernails tearing at his neck. It wasn't a loss of control of his powers. Ji-hyun screamed in despair, his agony indescribable. The city appeared bleak and peaceful, as if nothing had happened. "Hey, is she alright?" Tae-soo's friends were extremely worried. "What if she dies? Who cares?" Tae-soo coldly snorted, then jumped down and grabbed the red-haired boy's neck. "Kids like us have the law protecting us, and we're awakened individuals, too." "But hey," Tae-soo glared, "you think this is the first time I've beaten someone to a pulp?" Suddenly, a figure appeared in the distance. "Why did you do that?" Tae-soo wondered, "What the hell?" Ji-hyun gritted his teeth, "I'm asking you, why, what the hell are you saying?" Ji-hyun roared in fury, "Why did you do that to my mother, you son of a bitch?" Tae-soo suddenly recognized the familiar face. "Oh," he said, surprised, "your mother." Ji-hyun glared murderously at the bullies. "You look so young, hee, damn it." "Really?" Before he finished, Tae-soo flung a diamond stake into Ji-hyun's body. He so happily skewered Ji-hyun's body that I almost flirted with her. "She's so lucky." Ji-hyun trembled, his hands gripping the diamond stake. He struggled to pull it out of his body. What the? Despite the pain and the tears streaming down his face, Ji-hyun didn't give up. With a decisive yank, he pulled the diamond stake from his body. A large hole appeared on his body, but it quickly closed. Ji-hyun's body convulsed in agony. He bit his lip, his eyes wide. "You trashy dog." Tae-soo's only response was a weak wow. He pointed to the sky, controlling countless other stakes. He paused, then flicked his index finger downwards gently. Ji-hyun's screams and groans echoed through the space. Tae-soo sneered, "Who do you think you are?" He looked at Ji-hyun, impaled by numerous stakes, with contempt. "A failure." Suddenly, Ji-hyun tensed his body, growling as he broke free from the stakes. Ji-hyun, enraged, slowly walked towards him. "You son of a bitch." His body covered in blood, he groaned, stepping towards his tormentors. Tae-soo chuckled, "He's determined, isn't he? Show him what's what." Thor nodded, looking at the groaning Jihyung. His eyes flashed with golden electricity. The space was instantly engulfed in blinding light. Jihyung's body was submerged in high-voltage electricity. Jihyung collapsed, his legs buckling under him. He slumped to the ground, paralyzed, unable to do anything. A trail of blood marked the spot where a body, riddled with diamond stakes, lay. Their footsteps followed one another. Let's go. Jihyung tried to move his body. He grabbed Taesu's leg in utter hatred. Jihyung tensed his face and threatened, "Where are you going?" Taesu grimaced in damn discomfort. He encased his hand in diamond. Then he punched Jihyung hard in the face. One punch after another landed on Jihyung's face. "You piece of trash, you should be protecting your mother, why are you so angry with me?" Taesu furiously punched Jihyung mercilessly in the mouth. Jihyung's eyes rolled back, as if he was unconscious. Refusing to yield, he tensed his face and bit Taesu's hand. Taesu clicked his tongue in contempt. He muttered an order, "Sandman, Sandman." The Sandman tilted its head, questioning. Taesu replied, "Dig." The Sandman obeyed and dug a small hole beneath Jihyung. Jihyung looked at him with hatred. "You bastard." Thor was nervous. "What are you going to do to Taesu?" Smirking and shutting his mouth, he reached out to Jihyung. More deadly red spiked stakes instantly emerged from the ground. "Damn it," Jihyung screamed in despair, "I'll kill you." His eyes bloodshot, threatening to kill him. Jihyung's body was gradually swallowed by the sharp stakes. "All of you." Jihyung watched Taesu's back. "Sure about that?" Taesu smirked provocatively, "Try me." Then he coldly left, "See if you can get out." Jihyung's body was encased in hard diamond and buried in the ground, his hands braced against the sharp stakes. Jihyung was completely trapped. "Damn it." He bit his lip in fury, causing blood to flow. "Damn it," Jihyung screamed unconsciously in rage. Then he struggled with all his might, punching repeatedly at the diamond stakes. Jihyung's hands were stained with blood, the diamond was unbreakable. Jihyung's eyes widened in pain. "Damn it," he gasped for breath, struggling for air. Jihyung's eyes went blank, lifeless. "It hurts so much, I can't stay conscious anymore." However, his regeneration ability forced him back to consciousness. Jihyung's pupils turned purple, the pain of regeneration agonizing. His legs convulsed constantly, every second a brutal torment. Jihyung's hand unconsciously reached out in midair. Terrified, he grabbed the sharp diamond bar in pain. Then, he pressed the shard against his own neck, causing blood to splatter. Suddenly, Jihyung remembered his mother, but this damn regenerative ability. Jihyung writhed in agony, not even allowing himself to die. He could only lie still, accepting his fate. Powerless to the bone, yet his mother was waiting. Jihyung hated it, he couldn't bear to endure it. "I'll get out," Jihyung told himself. "No matter what it takes, no matter how long it takes. Every agonizing punch, like blood gushing out, I'll get out, I'll survive, I'll get out." The city remained peaceful, as if nothing was happening. On the large TV screen, "Welcome to the live broadcast, meeting the hunters along with famous S-class hunters. Those three are known for being kind. I hear you often do charity work as well. Since we were young, helping people in need has brought us joy." The Taesu trio sat before the camera, recounting, "And we still feel that way now. Wow, that's amazing." Next question. "I heard 5 years ago, you injured a citizen due to uncontrolled powers." The audience fell silent after the question. Taesu bowed his head, covering his face with his hands and crying. "She was the mother of a close friend. It happened when I was still a student, I couldn't control my powers. I apologized, but we haven't been in contact since. I want to apologize again. I truly." Before he could finish, the room's door flew open and slammed into Taesu. The door flew at Taesu with the speed of wind. But he managed to block it with his diamond arm. Taesu tilted his head, observing, "What the?" The entire hall erupted in chaos. A monster. Sharp feet slammed onto the ground. "Run, it's coming closer." The monster stood tall before Taesu and the others. Taesu cautiously looked at the monster for a moment. The monster leaped, its claws slashing towards Taesu's face. Jihyung remained inside the diamond, unconsciously punching relentlessly. How much time had passed? Months, years. The diamond hadn't even scratched, but there was something different about my regeneration. The repeated injuries had overactivated it, and I regenerated into something stronger. My exoskeleton emerged from that grave. I destroyed my own body. And regenerated each limb, playing with my own body. Gritting his teeth, enduring the pain, Jaehyung's entire body felt completely destroyed. Blood splattered, flesh torn, bones broken, agonizing pain. The pain was worse than death. Jaehyung's eyes gradually turned a deep red. Even so, I'll continue, he told himself in pain. A deep red crack appeared, revealing a blood-red pupil. Jaehyung's pupils had turned completely red. At that moment, the monster's punch slammed into Taesu's face, sending him flying and smashing his body against the wall. Thor was horrified, unable to believe what he was seeing. Thor's eyes narrowed in horror. A body, a monster, entirely made of bone and blood. Jaehyung, filled with rage, recalled that moment. Kill me if you can get out. Both Thor and the Sandman were stunned, staring at the monster. Jaehyung growled, I'm out, you damn dogs. His two teammates glanced behind them to see Taesu had risen. Kill it, one of them activated their power. He summoned a lightning bolt that struck downwards. Of course Jaehyung is not impressed. However, he still suffers from the pain caused by grinding his teeth. Jaehyung took measured steps forward. And before the other guy realized, his head was severed from his neck. Taesu and the remaining man were stunned. A moment of silence passed. He'd avenged one, but his hatred remained unsated. His accomplice hastily used his ability to create a pile of sharp stones, then threw them at Jaehyung. He didn't even bat an eye. However, the man's ability didn't stop at throwing stones. He created a cocoon that encased Jaehyung, squeezing him tight. Jaehyung gritted his teeth, and with a loud asterisk crack, the stone cocoon shattered. He lunged out, seizing the man's lower jaw. He ripped the man open, clutching his dying mouth. Jaehyung raised the knife that sprouted from his arm, aiming for the killing blow. Blood splattered everywhere. Taesu, while he was killing his companion, from behind encased his fist in diamond and launched a surprise attack. He punched Jaehyung in the head, forcing him to the ground. The bones at the back of his head cracked. But simultaneously, the diamond on his fist suffered a similar fate. He raised his hand, fear and resentment warring within him. Thousands of ice arrows filled the sky, all aimed at the building. He pointed downwards and commanded. The diamond arrows rained down simultaneously. They intertwined, piercing Jaehyung's body. Taesu watched as Jaehyung was impaled by hundreds of arrows. Suddenly, he frowned. Jaehyung slowly pulled himself up, slowly extracting his body from the ice arrows, blood flowing freely. Taesu's face went pale. He actually stood up. He turned to look at him, his body impaled like a hedgehog, covered in blood. Terrified, Taesu covered himself in ice. Seizing the opportunity before Jaehyung had fully regenerated, he punched him straight in the face. He continued punching, relentlessly, like a madman. Finally, with his strongest punch, Jaehyung opened his mouth and clamped down on his fist. He bit down hard on the diamond covering his hand, cracking it. Taesu was terrified, his mouth agape. He gnawed on Taesu's hand with his mouth, then used the knife in his hand to stab through his chest and the diamond armor. Taesu writhed in pain, trying to pull his hand away. Jaehyung bit down even harder. Blood flowed through the cracked diamond. He grabbed Taesu's head. Taesu's eyes welled up with fear. He braced his remaining hand on the ground. He still managed to create a large ice pillar, which pierced Jaehyung's body, his blood staining the ice pillar red. Then he left Jaehyung there and fled. Suddenly, from behind, one of Taesu's ice spears was thrown, piercing his chest. In pain and fear, he braced himself on his hands and feet, turned his head, and saw Jaehyung still standing tall. He cowered, screaming, "Don't come near, stop." Jaehyung ignored him. Something Jaehyung did caused Taesu's eyes to roll back, tears streaming down his face as he screamed. After a while, blood poured down the steps. Taesu was impaled by hundreds of his own ice spears, just like Jaehyung earlier. He gasped, Who are you? Why did you do this to me?" Jaehyung looked at him as if he were an insect. He raised his hand and picked up the bone fragment that covered one side of his face, then forcefully tearing Taesu with tears and nose looking up at his eyebrows. He now knew what to do. In the past, two of his accomplices and he held a piece of ice and insulted him as a worm. "Move, you pathetic thing." He was just a student then, enduring his torment. Now, one side of his face was scarred and disfigured, his speech slurred. He raised the knife that appeared in his hand and viciously stabbed and slashed at the man. Tae-soo was like a paper doll, taking all the blows. As for him, his eyes burned with nothing but murderous intent. He punched the knife in his hand straight into the man's mouth. Tae-soo's eyes rolled back, his pain causing him to lose consciousness. Ji-hyun pulled his hand away, dragging with it the man's blood and saliva, which dripped down the blade of the knife. He seemed to regain a bit of awareness. Around him lay the bodies and severed heads of his 2 accomplices, and especially Tae-soo. 3 men, dead in agony, amidst a pool of blood. Ji-hyun's shadow fell over the pool of blood Tae-soo left behind. At the hospital, where his mother lay, Ji-hyun covered her body with a blanket and sat there staring blankly, his eyes brimming with tears. She was dying, her eyes vacant, lying still without a sound. He knelt down, raised his face to the heavens, and cried out in the torrential rain. In a forest, a golden vortex opened. Inside, headless monsters lay scattered like trash. Good job, the group of 4 fake awakened men surrounded a girl. I think you said this was your first time through the gate, right? She smiled shyly. Yes, that's right, thank you for taking care of me, it was nothing. The fake awakened men looked at her with lustful eyes. We're even more grateful to you, one said, raising an eyebrow. Huh, said one of them, with sinister intent. What happened inside the gate? The girl trembled. Wait, what? Another man restrained her arms, lifting them. Sometimes it takes a whole month to get out. I'm really looking forward to spending a month with you. The girl could only cry. A second later, the man's head spun around and slammed into the ground. The others were startled, turning their heads. What the hell was that? Who was that? Ji-hyun appeared, his skeletal body encased in bone, looking like a monster, staring intently at them. They quickly unleashed their abilities. The monster's not dead yet, kill him. A barrage of abilities were unleashed on him. Ji-hyun seemed to enjoy it. A man with a sword lunged at him. The sword shattered. He counterattacked, adding a second head to the ground, then a third, then a fourth. 4 headless corpses lay piled on the ground. He walked towards the girl. She trembled, huddled in a corner, crying. He looked at her menacingly, but didn't do anything. She seemed to realize this, sobbing. Thank you for saving me. Before she could finish, a 5th head fell. Back to when he killed Tae-soo. As he knelt and cried, a voice came from behind him. Well done, your revenge is complete. How does it feel? A dangerous voice asked. Who are you? She introduced herself. I am Sim Jaein, the president of the Korean Hunters Association. He turned around. How did you know me? She explained. I've been watching you since the accident 5 years ago. Her words provoked him. Ji-hyun quickly approached her, intending to finish her off, but she still calmly spoke up to his mother. I can help her, she said confidently, smiling as his knife flew towards her. The impact of the punch was so powerful that it sent rocks and earth flying. He promptly stopped her and repeated to his mother that I had a way to help her get better. But only the only S-class healer in the world can do it, and that person is me. Why would I believe you? You're suspicious. She said nonchalantly. After an accident like that, and she's still alive, I guess it's thanks to the hospital. You've been hit where it hurts. What do you want? She smiled faintly and made her request. I need you. Hunters are too powerful now. Most military forces can't fight hunters. Some can even stand against nuclear weapons. Thanks to them, most monsters from the gates have been eliminated, but the gates themselves haven't disappeared. They're now being used as pathways, and nations are using hunters to wage war. However, our country doesn't have enough hunters. We can't stop the Japanese hunters from invading. She looked at his half-human, half-monster form and continued, and then you appeared. If we fight Japan as hunters, it will start a war, but if it's as monsters, it's no problem. I'm counting on you. In return, I'll save your mother. That's why you killed all those fake awakened, including that girl. He held his mother's picture. If you agree to become one of our monsters. He agreed to the deal, killed the person, and left. 3 years ago, gates in the sky started appearing more frequently. Initially, they showed no signs of stopping. However, most monsters from ordinary gates were conquered. Higher-level gates contained even more terrifying monsters. Then, the world's fear became the power of the hunters. Those who learned abilities from the monsters after living amidst them. A series of dangerous hunters emerged, causing global concern. Recognizing the imminent danger to their countries, some nations attempted to eliminate them. they used various methods, including fighter jets, artillery, and modern weapons, to fight the hunters. But the hunters' power was incredibly astonishing. Battles erupted, but all ended in complete failure. All fighter jets and artillery were ineffective. Only one person could use their abilities to destroy an entire fleet. Truly remarkable. From then on, things escalated. Agreements between governments and hunters were signed in many countries. Hunters worldwide realized they had to either negotiate peace with nations or invade and kill those who opposed them. They gained power in their own ways. Or invade and kill those who opposed them. They gained power in their own ways. And the country targeted by the hunters was Japan. The reason is simple: the Prime Minister is an SSS-class hunter with magma abilities, or, in other words, he can control lava. He was brutal even before awakening, and after the hunter system emerged, he tried to take over South Korea. However, that ambition was stopped by a monster. Jihyung, you were transformed by Jihyung's regenerative abilities. Your ability allows you to regenerate your body, but it also brings pain. Seeing him recover and regenerate, the hunters stared in amazement. Some in the crowd exclaimed, "He's regenerating again, Prime Minister." Before they finished speaking, numerous hunters charged towards Jihyung, shouting, "Leave him to us." Among them were Japan's 7th rank Jidaimaru and 8th rank Taku. Both approached Jihyung. Jidaimaru approached and said, "A measly monster can regenerate." Taku leaped, swung his weapon across his neck, and said, "What if I cut off your head?" It seemed like he was defeated, but Jihyung was fine. He looked coldly, grabbing Jidaimaru's head. With his other hand, he severed Taku's head. He pulled Jidaimaru back by the head, easily fighting off both opponents. Jidaimaru was astonished, unsure of what was happening. He widened his eyes and exclaimed, "Eh." He slammed Jidaimaru's head against the ground, blood spraying. Jidaimaru let out a loud scream, losing a lot of blood. Jihyung slowly raised his hand before the numerous hunters, who all stood dumbfounded in awe. Jihyung slowly stood up before the gate. Jidaimaru was dead. The Prime Minister stared blankly. Someone exclaimed, "What was that?" Other hunters added, "That bastard, how dare he do that to our hunters?" The Prime Minister, leading the hunters, activated his ability and coldly said, "From now on, anyone who takes a step forward will be killed." The hunters were enraged by Jihyung's actions. A fierce battle was about to begin. All the hunters trembled at the Prime Minister's words, falling silent. He remained standing before the gate, unmoving. The Prime Minister of the fierce hunters frowned and activated his ability. At another time, during a winter, snow fell heavily outside. A young boy sat huddled in a corner of the street, freezing and miserable, his eyes closed as if awaiting death. Suddenly, footsteps approached. An elegant man bent down and gently said, "Hey, little one, what are you doing here?" The boy slowly opened his eyes and looked up. The man gently leaned closer. The boy, freezing, managed to look up. The man sat beside him. The boy, confused, asked, "Who are you?" The man said nothing, but looked at a street sign. Then he said, "It's very cold." The man took off his coat and put it on the boy, then gently took his hand and led him away. Their footprints marked the snow. While walking, the man asked, "What's your name, kid?" The boy looked up, embarrassed. "That's Kaguryu." Back to the present, the Prime Minister was transforming, magma gradually appearing on his body. Jihyung stood there, smiling faintly and dazed. The Prime Minister began to unleash his power. Jihyung quickly raised his hand, creating a shield against the magma fired by the hunter. The attack from the SSS-class Prime Minister hunter was different. It sent Jihyung flying far away, unable to resist. Before he could react, the Prime Minister hunter quickly moved to Jihyung, grabbed his shoulder, and raised his hand behind him, preparing to strike. The Prime Minister hunter then punched through his body with his magma power. Jihyung screamed in pain, his mouth wide open, his tongue constantly moving, and he groaned. In his pain, Jihyung's screams echoed to the heavens. Although he was a regenerator, he felt the pain completely. The Prime Minister hunter seemed bloodthirsty, wanting to defeat everything. Jihyung's body was pierced with a large hole in his stomach, and his eyes were gouged out. However, Jihyung could regenerate. His eyes, though detached, still stared intently at the Prime Minister hunter. That wasn't enough. The Prime Minister continued his assault, summoning a column of magma that plummeted from the sky, aiming directly at Jihyung. The magma column reached him, people watching from afar exclaimed at the Prime Minister Hunter's incredible battle. He was beaten to the point where there wasn't a single piece of flesh left, only bones and traces of magma. The hunters exclaimed, "That's the Prime Minister for you." The Prime Minister tossed a woman's severed head to the ground. As he prepared to leave, the Prime Minister turned back to look. Ji-hyung's body began to regenerate. His bones reassembled into a skeleton, and each cell began to recover. Throughout the regeneration process, Ji-hyung continued to scream loudly. The Prime Minister stared at him, indicating the end of any resistance. A man and a woman stood atop a building littered with corpses. The man spoke. "It's all right," the boy replied. Standing behind the man was Kaguryu, who was wrapping his own wounds. The man looked into the distance and said, "We haven't conquered Japan yet, and now we also have to target South Korea and China." The man also used a cloth to stop the bleeding from a wound on his hand. "If you're scared, tell me, and I'll let you stop. Next time, you might lose your life." Kaguryu spoke, "You were the one who guided me when I was about to die on the streets. My life now belongs to you. However, there's something I want." Kaguryu approached the man. The man asked, "Can I consider you my son when this is all over?" Kaguryu continued, "Can I call you father?" The man closed his eyes and said, "Why be so formal?" He continued, "Even without saying it, you're my son from the start." Kaguryu stared at the man, speechless. Amidst the night, the lights and moonlight continued to shimmer. The man turned and said, "You're my son now." The Prime Minister's rage continued. It was like a volcano erupting. Magma surrounded them, advancing towards the hunters. One of the hunters used their ability to freeze the approaching magma. After acting, the girl looked up and said, "Judo. Everything around Taesung is lava. The Prime Minister is also burning hot." The hunters stand in the ice safety zone that the girl created. Ji-hyung stood at the edge of the magma, looking towards the Prime Minister. The volcano seemed on the verge of eruption. And then the volcano erupted, a large explosion echoing. The Prime Minister was in a state of total focus, preparing a magma-based attack. A light flashed past him quickly. The hunter's Prime Minister could unleash such a swift and terrifying attack with a single swing of his arm. Ji-hyung's body began to disintegrate. Ji-hyung's body gradually lost all its flesh, leaving only his skeleton. He managed to leap onto the Prime Minister. He reached out towards the Prime Minister Hunter. The Prime Minister Hunter didn't give him a chance to counterattack. He immediately swung his arm, creating a vortex that struck the remaining bare bones from below. The volcanic eruption struck him directly. His body began to disintegrate. The people around panicked and scattered. Some shouted, "The Prime Minister," others yelled, "Get out of the way. A volcano right in the middle of an urban area is erupting." The Prime Minister returned to his original form. A crater was formed by the battle. Below is a lake of magma. Ji-hyung's bones floated on the surface. The Prime Minister looked down from above. The hunter Prime Minister addressed Han-aim. The girl, summoned, bowed and replied, "Yes." The Prime Minister continued, "Your hand." Han-aim slowly removed her glove. She gradually became an ice person. Her power was that. Han-aim lightly touched the ground, slowly freezing the magma pit. "And it's done. The magma pit has been transformed into a stronger material. And he's trapped right below." The Prime Minister turned away and said, "Freeze him down there." Ji-hyung, under the magma lake, saw the surface slowly solidify. He struggled, looking up with the ambition to escape. The Prime Minister added, "Forever." In South Korea, the Kyum-kong Society. In a treatment and experimental room. A girl was using her healing abilities to save a man. Long veins protruded on the girl's arms, showing her effort and difficulty. The man on the bed had lost half his right arm. The young man looked familiar. Signs of life gradually appeared. The young man slowly opened his eyes, thanks to the girl's efforts. The whole city was covered in a bloody hue. The volcano was showing signs of eruption. Above the crater, Judo's men were preventing the eruption, diverting water into the crater. Judo turned to his subordinates and said, "Leave a few people." The others return. The subordinates, hearing the order, chorused, "Yes." While everyone wasn't paying attention, a hand emerged from the solidified magma, immediately cursing fiercely. "Don't try to escape." The hand, freed from the magma's grip, reached upwards. The monster trying to escape the magma was Ji-hyung. Because the magma layer was too thick, escaping was difficult. He roared, "This face. Inside the blood gate, I've been through this countless times. Jihyung began to emerge. His form, destroyed by the magma, was slimy and sagging, terrifying. He used all his strength to break through the magma's surface, Jihyung painfully said. But this pain has never been more bearable. Sensing an approaching killing intent, Hanaim turned towards the crater. Jihyung was crawling towards her. Seeing this, Hanaim looked anxiously at Judo, who was covered in wounds, and said emotionlessly, "Hanaim, take the hunters and escape." As soon as he finished speaking, Judo activated his power, a light radiating around him. He jumped down, delivering a powerful punch that sent Jihyung flying. Hanaim, worried, put her hand on her chest and said, "Judo." Scene change, Hanaim and Judo are at House H. Hanaim stood outside the door, worriedly saying, "Didn't you overdo it?" Judo, wiping his blood with a cloth, his body covered in scars, turned his back to Hanaim and said, "Magma regeneration isn't omnipotent. The 4 major hunter nations, us, China, Russia, Japan." Judo looked at the map on the table and continued, "Japan is the weakest. If we don't invade South Korea, we won't survive." Hanaim hugged Judo's arm, put a glass of water down for him, and said dejectedly, "But many of our hunters will die." Judo replied, "We just need to fight harder. Even if my body is destroyed, I will protect our country." That was Hanami's thought. Judo was now in a fighting stance. His eyes were filled with killing intent, as if to obliterate his opponent instantly. Judo used all his strength, launching a powerful attack towards Jihyung. He attacked continuously, every move was deadly, leaving Jihyung no time to react. The fierce battle caused dozens of large explosions inside the volcano. Hanaim, outside the mountain, looked at the hunters present and said, "The Prime Minister ordered our retreat. I'll stay, you all leave." Hanaim, his face full of sadness, looked down at Tae-soo and continued, "I'm sorry." Hearing this, the hunters present all knelt down and said, "We had all received a lot of help from the Prime Minister. We will protect him to the end, ma'am." Inside the volcano, Judo was still fighting the monster Jihyung. The volcano seemed about to erupt because of their battle. Judo and Jihyung fought back and forth, exchanging countless blows. Above the crater, Hanaim and the hunters anxiously awaited Judo's return. In a moment of unguardedness, the monster Jihyung seized the opportunity and leaped towards Hanaim and her group. Before they could react, Jihyung grabbed Hanami's hand and pulled her down. The hunters cried out in unison, "Madam." Seeing his wife being dragged down by Jihyung, Judo roared in furious rage. The hunters activated their powers and jumped down after Jihyung. After grabbing Hanami's hand, half of Jihyung's body absorbed her power and froze solid. Judo breathed fire towards Jihyung, while Hanami's face turned pale, still unable to process what was happening. Judo gritted his teeth. In a flash, he snatched Hanaim from Jihyung's grasp, held her close, and severed one of the monster's arms. Enduring the pain of losing an arm, the monster Jihyung seized the opportunity and decapitated Judo. Hanaim was stunned, her mouth agape in disbelief at what she had just witnessed. All the hunters descended, and Hanaim used all her strength to prevent Judo's head from falling. But at that moment, Jihyung's spear also struck Hanami's hand. As the hunters landed, they immediately asked, "Madam, are you all right?" Hanaim, in shock, covered her mouth, stammered, and called out Judo's name. Tears streamed down her face. She approached Judo's head, which was slowly melting in the lava, and cried out his name. The hunters were also shocked and cried out, "Prime Minister." Jihyung was still alive and approaching Hanaim and the hunters. His body was now fleshed out, no longer the skeleton he was when he emerged. He approached Hanaim. He was now so large that he resembled a giant, leaving Hanaim immobile. Many tears streamed down her face, blurring her vision. Suddenly, she opened her eyes. She saw Judo holding her hand, staring at her worriedly and saying, "You're awake." Hanaim, as if waking from a dream, hugged Judo tightly and cried out his name. "I just had a nightmare," she said. Judo, not understanding what Hanaim had dreamt, worriedly called her name, looked into her eyes, and gently reassured her, "It's okay. I'm here, don't worry, Hanaim." Hanaim closed her eyes and kissed Judo. As she opened her eyes, she was horrified to see Judo's decapitated head. She opened her eyes and returned to reality. Before her, she saw that the hunters had been slaughtered by Jihyung and were slowly being consumed by lava. And she couldn't understand why Jihyung had spared her. Unable to accept what she saw, she raised her hand to her face and froze herself. Ji-hyun walked away without looking back, opened a door, and disappeared. Scene change, Kyum-kong National Assembly, South Korea. Tae-soo stood before the Mana Stone Repository. The woman beside Tae-soo said, "Tae-soo, you can't overdo it, you're the only one with mana left, that's why we saved you, and your friends." Tae-soo coldly replied, "I know." Tae-soo looked at the memorial picture of his friends and continued, "They hardly have any mana left." The woman asked, "Then why?" Before she could finish, Tae-soo interrupted her. "The rat I bullied in school escaped from the blood gate and killed me. And the person Tae-soo is talking about is none other than Ji-hyun." When it comes to Ji-hyun, Tae-soo gets angry and indignantly clenches his fists and says, "That damn wormhead." Tae-soo is the leader of the Kyum-kong Guild. He took off his shirt and threw it away. The girl, witnessing the scene, stammered, Sir, you." Tae-soo had become an S-class hunter. He coldly replied to the girl's doubt, "That's right." Countless sealing characters on Tae-soo's back glowed. He radiated killing intent, saying, "I've broken the seal." At the Kyum-kong Guild, a brown-haired girl ran in frantically, breathless. Seeing Tae-soo's back, still bearing the marks of the seal, she gasped, "The seal is broken." He smiled faintly, then he turned, facing the neatly arranged rows of people, and ordered, "Assemble all members of the Kyum-kong Guild immediately." The man in the black suit at the head of the line bowed, replying, "Ready to receive your orders, Guild Master." Others behind him whispered, I thought he was dead." The person next to him responded, "It seems the Vice Guild Master has been revived." The man in the black suit, Han Kung-chan, manager of the S-Class tactical team, remained slightly hunched, pushing his glasses up with one hand. He said, "That monster has moved to the gate after the Japanese hunt. You must have summoned us to," he began, but Tae-soo coldly interrupted, "Deal with that bastard." Kyum-kong exclaimed, "Truly our master." He stood straight, solemnly declaring, "We, the Kyum-kong tactical team, will support you with our lives." Without a word, Tae-soo attacked the man with glasses, severing his head. Then Tae-soo bent down and picked up the head. The man's eyes widened in terror, tears and snot streaming from his mouth. 3 surrendering men nearby glanced at the red-haired man in their ranks and asked, "Master?" Seemingly ignoring them, Tae-soo looked at the head in his hand and said, "This man was originally the vice president of the Korean Hunters Association. 3 years ago, I merged the association, and Kyum-kong could rule Korea." Without holding the head, Tae-soo used his ability, his hand glowing red, with something golden wrapping around it. He continued, "And his ability is S-Class remote control." As he finished speaking, the red-haired man's limbs were twisted, his face contorted by physical force. Blood splattered, hitting the mushroom-head black-haired man. It also hit the brown-haired girl, but no one screamed. They all gritted their teeth, pretending nothing happened. Recalling when Tae-soo still had the seal on his back, the brown-haired girl asked, "Was it necessary to remove your seal, sir?" The seal characters on his back glowed. She continued, "Your ability is cursed." Back to the present, he knelt on the ground, looking at his blood-stained hand. This isn't the best way. His eyes turned terrifying, a light emanated from his right hand, the blood around him made him even more fearsome. He looked up and asked, "Do you want to support me wholeheartedly?" A long, sharp, sword-like object created by Tae-soo moved through the crowd, severing heads. Blood sprayed everywhere, splattering onto the faces of those nearby. The crowd erupted into chaos, screams of terror filling the air. A significant number survived, 1528. Tae-soo seemed to go mad, his eyes wide, screaming as if to sweep away everything. In an instant, all the hunters present were annihilated. Rows of corpses lay on the ground. The scene was a bloody battlefield. The brown-haired girl, her face in her hands, helplessly asked, "Sir, are you all right?" Tae-soo stepped on the corpses he had just killed, calmly replying, "No, that bastard killed the SSS-class Prime Minister." Colorful strings appeared, pulling the corpses together. The bloody corpses were impaled on long, sharp stakes, the strings pulling them into a towering pile. Tae-soo sat atop the pile, his clothes drenched in blood, coldly saying, "Still not enough. He trembled, "I will kill you, no matter the cost, you insect." Tae-soo raised his head, his blue eyes flashing, his face was covered in blood. He coldly said, "I'm going to Russia." At a port under the night sky, Sim Jaein stood alone before a green spatial gate. Ji-hyun stepped out. Jaein greeted him. Scene change, in a high-rise building. I'll begin the recovery process now. Jaein stood beside Ji-hyun's mother's hospital bed. My S-class healing skill will restore every damaged cell using my mana. Ji-hyun was also there, her back turned, looking through the hospital room window. It will take quite a while, but I can definitely save her. Jaein swayed, grabbing the wall, her face in her hands. Haha, as long as I keep doing this every day, she'll wake up next week. As she finished speaking, she collapsed, causing her subordinates to panic. President Ji-hyun remained unmoved. Jaein was bleeding from her nose from overexertion. Ji-hyun finally spoke. This process consumes a massive amount of your mana, why go this far? Hearing this, Jaein took Ji-hyun's hand. Her nose was still bleeding, her whole body drenched in sweat. She held Ji-hyun's hand, looked up, and said, because you have to live. Suddenly, a green light emanated from the hand Jaein was holding. She flinched and pulled her hand away. Seeing that, Jaein looked down and smiled and said, but it was just as I thought. His animalization process continues even when not in the blood gate. Jaein put on her cloak, extended her hand, and a green energy flowed from it. She continued. Ever since the first gate appeared 50 years ago, all the other gates gradually became blood gates. But since Ji-hyun's escape, there has been a dramatic change. And it led to all the gates in the world turning into blood gates. And the mana flowing within them is empowering him, Jaein continued, explaining the mana flow. If a normal gate is a hole, she said, then a blood gate is a passage. It connects to somewhere, and something is coming through it, searching for him. Horrific monsters, skeletons in decaying clothes, emerged from the red gates everywhere. The city's sky was filled with red gates and screams for help. People ran in panic, vehicles were overturned, and some were trapped and killed. Countless horrific monsters ravaged the city, those damn things. At the South Korean government office, the outer protective shield was breached by a monster attack. Cracks appeared, and screams erupted from within. What in the world is happening? The superior angrily slammed his fist on the table and yelled, why isn't the Kyum Kong Guild responding? The subordinate, yelled at, trembled and stammered, that. Because the entire guild has been annihilated, the superior roared. What? Why? We don't know either. What do we do now? Should we call for international aid? The superior immediately rejected the idea. No, that's the same as self-destruction. Implement martial law, the subordinate suggested, but the army won't be effective against. The superior interrupted loudly. Doesn't matter. What else can we do? He rubbed his temples, grimacing. The Kyum Kong Guild isn't all we have. He thought. There are other hunters. South Korea's second-ranked guild, Dosa Guild, A-rank John Woo Jin, A-rank Kong Sihi. South Korea's third-ranked guild, Vinyl Guild, A-rank Vinyl Man, A-rank Esper Woman. South Korea's fourth-ranked guild, Yonghak Guild, A-rank Yonghak, A-rank Nam Junyoung. They all appeared at once, facing a single monster. It unleashed a single punch, and they were all defeated. Ji-hyun, watching from above, was shocked. He yelled, it's all my fault. Jaein stood beside him, arms crossed, observing. What are you going to do now? She asked. A short-haired girl was running and fell in the middle of the street. From above, Ji-hyun jumped down, creating cracks around his landing point. His eyes were bloodshot as he looked up. When I died in the blood gate, the mana tried to turn me into a monster. I almost couldn't bear it, or so I thought. It wasn't like that. It was just that this mana wasn't enough to kill me. Until I completely become a monster, he gritted his teeth. Remembering his mother lying still in her hospital bed, I finally could live peacefully after my mother was cured. He lunged forward, grabbing a monster's head. As he attacked, he roared. Why won't you leave me alone? Him, a dangerous-looking monster, sitting on a massive throne, wondered. The one who caused the fissure. Through the glass, a grotesque hand was seen propping itself up on the ground. Above the arm, countless holes like eyes opened, crimson and surrounded by blood. At this moment, Ji-hyun also went out and began fighting the horrific monsters. He used powerful attacks to defeat each one charging at him. Ji-hyun's attack sent monster blood flying. He focused on fighting while observing the monsters. These monsters looked familiar. The same kind he had fought in the blood gate for 5 long years. Ji-hyun's deathly red eyes constantly watched the monsters' every move and their tentacles. Then Ji-hyun looked at the crimson spatial gate floating in the sky. The number of monsters that could emerge was limited, as all activity would cease after a while. I've killed all the monsters around here. If this continues, I can live happily with my mother. Stepping over the piles of monster corpses, Ji-hyun was happy, thinking about the future, when a bullet pierced his head from behind, unexpectedly. Then came a barrage of bullets aimed at Ji-hyun, blood splattered. He was taken aback. What the hell? The source of the bullets was a line of tanks. Voices could be heard from behind. Is that it, Commander? Ji-hyun was even more surprised to see who was shooting at him. The army. A soldier reported to the commander. It didn't harm any civilians. It only killed monsters. Sir, the fully equipped commander shouted. It doesn't matter. It caused this catastrophe. Tie it up immediately and wait for the hunter reinforcements. Ji-hyun was utterly confused by the army's words. What? He had clearly helped them eliminate the monsters, so why were they trying to arrest him? Bang! A tank fired its first shell. The tank shells were fired one after another, directly at Ji-hyun. Boom, bang, the shells exploded, illuminating the area with a blinding light. The rapid and relentless barrage from the tanks forced Ji-hyun to use his body as a shield. Damn it, you bastards. It hurt so much. He covered his entire face with his hands, peeking through his fingers. The bullets from the front continued to attack relentlessly. Ji-hyun's eyes looked desperate. The tears of pain falling stopped, and then an extremely large artillery shell was rushing towards him. The whole city was left with only the ruins of the attacks. The sky was tinged red with the fishy smell of blood rising. Fires still raged across the ground. Ji-hyun struggled to move towards the spatial gate. As he approached the gate, crimson and dark ominous rays emanated from it, carrying a surge of power. Jaein appeared, warning him cautiously, the blood gate is open. Ji-hyun's gaze remained one of death and suffering. Unable to stand straight, he bent over, looking past his feet at the mangled corpses behind him once more. A voice echoed in his head, making it difficult to resist the transformation into a monster. Hearing the voice, Ji-hyun felt doubt. Then, he lost consciousness, his eyes closing. Ji-hyun found himself in a classroom, lying on the floor, his body convulsing in pain. Fresh wounds were visible on his body. Ji-hyun cried out in pain, but no one in the class noticed except for his childhood friend, who turned to look at him. A brief memory surfaced, a short conversation between Ji-hyun and the blonde bully, Tae-soo, and his gang, who relentlessly targeted him. The blonde boy angrily clenched his fist and punched the wall, while Ji-hyun shyly leaned against the wall, his voice trembling. Because I'm easy to bully, Ji-hyun, his face and body covered in wounds, bowed his head and said, "You'll get beaten up too, just pretend you don't know me." The blonde boy was irritated. What? Hearing his childhood friend say such things, the blonde boy angrily grabbed Ji-hyun's collar and shouted, "Ji-hyun, are you crazy?" Ji-hyun's bruised face avoided the blonde boy's gaze. His fear wasn't of being hit, but of his friend's worry. The blonde boy didn't know what to do. Seeing Ji-hyun's face, he angrily let go. "Forget it." He turned away, muttering, "Get lost," and walked away. "That's how my childhood friend left me." Ji-hyun still remembered the blonde boy's back as he walked away. Or so I thought. Back in the classroom, he was still in pain on the floor, but subconsciously, he still remembered his friend. But in reality, he was gathering evidence. The blonde boy only glanced at Ji-hyun, but his eyes were deep, his face showing tense muscles. This was evident in his right eye, which held every piece of the image. After gathering enough evidence, he sent it to the police, educational institutions, and many other places. The next day, in a hospital room, agonizing screams echoed. He was found having lost his right eye. The blonde boy was shocked to see Ji-hyun's continued suffering. Disoriented, his eye bandaged, he looked at Ji-hyun. "I'm sorry, Ji-hyun, I probably can't go to school with you anymore." Ji-hyun seemed to collapse in sorrow. "Tae-soo, that dog, did it, right?" He was so angry his body trembled. Gritting his teeth, he said, "I will definitely." The blonde boy stopped him, placing a hand on his shoulder. The blonde boy's face was visibly frightened, sweating. Don't do that." Ji-hyun wiped away his tears, worried. "You lost your powers, what are we going to do now?" His blonde friend comforted him. "Don't worry." He gave a thumbs up and smiled, showing he was okay. It turned out that the images were just Ji-hyun's old memories. He held his childhood friend's severed head. He remembered his friend's words about joining the army. at the moment the mask fell, he realized one of the soldiers on the opposing side was his friend. But it was too late, his friend was already dead. Ji-hyung's mind seemed to collapse, his head heavy, he held his friend's head and cried out in despair, his scream shook the entire area. But the monsters didn't care about Ji-hyung's suffering. They took the opportunity to attack him from behind. Ji-hyung, filled with sadness and anger, turned to fight back. He used his long, sharp claws to slice the monsters in two. Ji-hyung's screams mingled with the monsters' roars, echoing throughout the area. From the spatial gates, more monsters continuously poured out, surrounding and attacking him. At the presidential building, protected by a shield, the monsters only circled outside. Inside the building, a voice was heard, "Mr. President, what is this?" On the screen, Ji-hyung's figure was seen fighting the monsters, observed by two men. In response to the question, the other man said, "The monster killed the chairman of the Kyum Kong Association and the former Japanese Prime Minister." He continued, "After investigation, the final decision is to kill it to restore the gates to normal." The president watched the screen, puzzled, but why are they fighting so chaotically? The man with the president, his secretary, replied, "We don't know, but more importantly, there are other monsters that can't be defeated." The president, still watching the screen angrily, the secretary added, "The blood gate is beginning to expand, we can't delay any longer." The president asked, "What about the hunters?" Secretary Lee reported, "They've been eliminated, sir." This gave the president a massive headache. Exhausted, he rubbed his head. "All right, contact foreign hunter agencies." Somewhere, a strong woman in a crimson suit, holding a blood-stained blade, Wan Jiguang, the first neutralizer, asked an old man carrying many weapons, the monster that caused the deaths of the Korean and Japanese hunters, because of the blood gate. Then she slammed the blade into the ground, creating a deep dent and cracks. Her voice was filled with excitement. "This will be interesting." Under the crimson sunset, only these two mysterious figures remained, behind them lay numerous dead soldiers. Elsewhere, a woman with white hair covered by a veil was also monitoring Ji-hyung's every move. What the hell is going on? She was Vladimir Ruzana, the first of the Russian Federation, sitting in her powerful chair, surrounded by multi-angle screens monitoring everything. Enraged by what she saw, she clenched her fist and exclaimed, "Damn it." In America, a white man looked up at the sky and a protective membrane above it. "Ah, I can hear the screams of the suffering souls." Standing atop a high rock, he observed the unfolding mayhem and the people fleeing below. "I must go," he said. The man behind him cautioned, "What if you go? What about the war in Russia?" Outside the protective barrier, people were about to break through, cracks were growing larger, and purple lights began to appear. The white man declared, "The war is over." The protective barrier disappeared. He unleashed a purple light, then spread his wings, feathers drifting down. The man standing behind was shocked and in tears. The #1 American hero of the SSS level, Stephen Lucas, held the bracelet in his hand. A tremendous power radiated from him as he issued an order to Korea. Ji-hyung recalled the time he spent fighting monsters for 5 years in the blood hell, under incredibly harsh conditions, without food, drink, or rest. His lips were parched. His weary legs moved in unsteady steps. The battle would endlessly repeat, all for survival. There, one would feel utterly exhausted. Every time I felt my sanity slipping, the process of monsterification would begin. However, each time, I remembered the faces of two people, my mother, lying vegetative in her hospital bed, and the face of the one who had reduced my mother to this state. Remembering this restrained my transformation into a monster. Now, I'm starting to lose control again. Is it because I've avenged myself, and my will has weakened? No, perhaps the demonic energy of the blood hell is intensifying. As I near it, I can't control myself. Therefore, I killed. Corpses with wide, unclosed eyes littered every place Ji-hyung passed. They were innocent people. I think I must get away from this dungeon. And I must also defeat all the monsters here. Only then can I hope to atone for my sins. Something suddenly struck, tearing Ji-hyung's body apart. His bloodshot eye fell to the ground. Stunned, he gasped, "What the?" In the distance, a priest with star-like wings. Back to the year the dungeons suddenly appeared in the human world, Christmas. Inside a church, the priest stood on the pulpit and said, "On this Christmas, we want to express our gratitude to you." Thousands were present in the square, dungeons suddenly appeared, opening up numerous portals. Countless dungeons emerged, with no hunters to stop them. Monsters poured out of the dungeons, attacking the believers. People panicked, screaming and fleeing. A believer ran to the priest, urgently speaking into the microphone, "Run, get out of here," but the priest insisted that the believers needed to be safe first. A monstrous creature targeted the priest. Then, a light, a halo, shone from the priest, dazzling all. Angelic wings sprouted from his shoulders. Was this God's will? The monsters fell dead. The priest clasped his hands, tears falling. The awakening. At an American church, over 10,000 believers gathered. 138 suffered minor injuries. There were no fatalities. A monster tried to attack a young boy. The priest saved him and killed the monster with his awakening. This was the world's first SSS-ranked pseudo-awakened, the hero who saved America from disaster. Since childhood, I've deeply respected him, the top American SSS-ranked hero, Stephen Lucas. But why is he here now? Jaehyung had just recovered and sat up when the pseudo-awakened Stephen Lucas delivered another devastating blow. Jaehyung was stunned. So that's it, he thought, he's probably here to eliminate the monsters. Stephen Lucas maintained his usual gentle expression and smile. He said, "You're quite tenacious for a damned monster." Jaehyung recovered again. Is he here because of me? Before Jaehyung fully recovered, Stephen Lucas prepared to kill him again. He clasped his hands, closed his eyes, and created a flying cross that bound Jaehyung in midair. Jaehyung was utterly astonished. He struggled to break free, fell to the ground, and saw that Stephen Lucas didn't seem to be letting him go. Pseudo-awakened beings communicate not through language, but through the magical energy between them. They can understand each other's intentions. Jaehyung's body ached all over. "I'm not a monster." Stephen Lucas stopped this person's hand. He stopped and asked who you are. Jaehyung knelt on the ground and begged him, "Please listen to my story." After Jaehyung recounted her heartbreaking story, Stephen Lucas bowed his head. "I am like this." He shed tears, inky black tears, and embraced Jaehyung, comforting him. "You must be so tired. What's your name?" "I'm Jaehyung," Stephen Lucas repeated. "I always fought to save people, but today, I killed too many. To never forget, to atone for my sins, I've etched their names onto my body." Then, Stephen Lucas removed his shirt, revealing his entire body covered in densely packed names of those he'd killed, from chest to feet. Jaehyung's eyes widened. "I could help you eliminate those monsters, but this will spread worldwide. And more people will die." Stephen Lucas raised his hand near his neck. "I'm sorry." New words gradually appeared. Jaehyung's name. He was about to kill him to save humanity. "Truly sorry." Jaehyung's eyes welled up as he saw his name appear on Stephen Lucas's skin. Why does no one understand his pain? Stephen Lucas then pointed at Kang Jaehyung's head. A surge of killing intent swept over Stephen Lucas. He whispered, "I have to kill you." At that moment, in a high-rise building protected from flying monsters. Inside a room, the head of the Korean Hunters Guild, Jaein, watched Stephen Lucas on a screen. With her was Kang Jaehyung's mother. The girl outside was extremely worried about the guild master. Meanwhile, inside, Guild Master Sim Jaein, her eyes bloodshot, was distraught, bleeding from her nose and mouth. Across the Eurasian landmass of Russia, curses rang out. "Damn that Lucas, he single-handedly leveled the battlefield, and now he's in Korea. Has he been holding back all this time?" The woman with a fur hat and a prosthetic leg was Russia's top-ranked SSS-class hunter, Vladimir Ruzana. On one of the screens, her subordinate, arm injured, reported, "We've lost 80% of our combat strength, Your Majesty, we can't hold the line. If this continues, hunters from other superpowers will attack." Vladimir Ruzana bit her lip. "Damn it, if only we could capture that monster." Two figures entered the hall. Confidently, they spoke to Vladimir Ruzana. "Let me handle it." It was the kid who had reduced our protagonist's mother to a vegetative state. The monster Vladimir Ruzana mentioned, the one she wanted to capture, was an Arctic monster, exceptionally brutal, a top-tier SSS-rank beast. Its body was massive, its arms grotesquely large and deformed, with horns on its head. The moment it appeared, Russia's Arctic base was leveled. Completely clueless about the portal and the beast, the Russian government deployed all its forces, only to suffer a catastrophic defeat. And they were forced to use half of the nation's nuclear arsenal. The nuclear bombs were fired to the North Pole to target the demonic beast, but the demonic beast did not die under the non-magical attack, and northern Russia after dropping the nuclear bomb was heavily contaminated with radiation. It became the ideal breeding ground for the beasts. The monsters multiplied under the leadership of that SSS-Rank beast. Russia then declared war on the US to reclaim resources. The green-haired man nonchalantly said, "That monster, I'll kill it." Annoyed, Vladimir Ruzana stepped down. "You're an S-class hunter from Korea, how laughable." She approached him, coming here uninvited, an S-class hunter daring to kill the Arctic monster. Vladimir Ruzana glared and snapped her fingers. The ground beneath the silver-haired man and pink-haired girl was suddenly compressed, forcing them to their knees. The kid stammered, "It's because of you I'm here. You're the one who caused this." Vladimir Ruzana, enraged, sneered at the disrespectful kid, "I can kill people, you know." Vladimir Ruzana, sitting on her throne, found this amusing. She pointed at him. You think you can cross that irradiated zone? Is that a shield? That's useless against high concentrations of radiation." Suddenly, Vladimir Ruzana froze. She looked at the silver-haired boy, constantly moving to create a shield far stronger than a normal one. Knowing this boy could do it, she stopped pressing him and said, "It's fine, as long as you kill the Arctic beast, I'll give you half its magic stones." The boy immediately accepted. "Wait for my word, I'll kill it right now." Back to Jihyung and the awakened, Stephen Lucas, he whispered an apology. "I'm truly sorry, I have to kill you." Jihyung's body disintegrated after that blow, scattering pieces of flesh in all directions. Among them was his eye, wide and bloodshot, as if all his grievances were written there. A piece of Jihyung's flesh fell far from Stephen Lucas. Before he could recover, while watching Stephen Lucas from afar, suddenly, he appeared behind him, with the same face and smile. Kang Jihyung reacted quickly, turning around and punching him straight in the face. Stephen Lucas again embraced Jihyung. "I'm sorry." Jihyung struggled against him, but it was useless. "Just hurt me if it makes you feel better." Jihyung didn't feel better at all. "But my regeneration has limits." And every time Kang Jihyung regenerated, Stephen Lucas would appear, using the same killing method, a tight embrace, killing him without causing any pain. This was truly awful. "My ability is bone growth, I can cover myself with a hard shell, but it comes with excruciating pain. Pain that tore apart all my nerve cells, pain that killed and revived me." Each regeneration, Jihyung's eyes grew darker, the pain was excruciating. Every second, every minute of regeneration was endless pain, twisting flesh and bone, excruciating agony. But I endured it, I kept hoping. At times like this, the image of that arrogant bastard with his bright blue eyes, and the image of Jihyung's beloved mother, lying in a vegetative state, appeared in his mind. However, Stephen Lucas's fatal attack repeated every time I regenerated. But Lucas's attack surpassed any pain I had ever experienced. Regenerate, then be killed, regenerate, then be caught and attacked, dozens, hundreds of times, it exceeded Jihyung's limits. A blank space opened, the smaller Jihyung, standing behind the fallen Jihyung, said, "Stop." Lucas was right, if we live, others will die, but if we die, Mom will live, that's enough. That Jihyung silently bowed his head, listening. Then he raised his face, his features twisted by the painful regenerations, a morbid, distorted smile blooming. This regeneration was different from before. Kang Jihyung opened countless dungeons with one hand, gathering power there to attack Stephen Lucas. A light from the sky struck, blowing everything up with a far-reaching boom. Drops of blood slowly fell to the ground. Stephen Lucas looked down at his body. No more dark blood gushed out, this time, fresh blood spurted from his nose and mouth. A drone, live-streaming the fight between Stephen Lucas and Kang Jihyung, slowly approached. The image of Stephen Lucas bleeding and defeated appeared on a large screen outside, where many people were watching. A boy, seemingly a devout follower of Stephen Lucas, clutched a crucifix and cried, "Father." The building where the head of the Korean Hunters Association, Sim Jae-in, was located, was collapsing and about to fall. Her assistant ran into the room while Sim Jae-in continued to desperately treat the main character's mother. "Director, this isn't good." Blood poured from Sim Jae-in's eyes, nose, and mouth. She gasped, then collapsed and spat out a large amount of blood. The assistant panicked. "Director, are you alright?" Director Sim Jae-in looked at Ji-hyung's mother lying on the bed, having finished the treatment. Ji-hyung's mother, who had been in a vegetative state, slowly opened her eyes and woke up.